Alright, so you've got your block back from the machine shop, everything clean, yada yada yada, whatever you needed. If you're not sure what you need when you're doing a rebuild, take it to the machine shop, have them just check over everything, just make sure everything is good. When you get it back, make sure you're happy with it, everything's clean, nothing's damaged, yada yada yada. So first thing we're going to do is main clearances. Okay, you're going to have your main bearings. Okay, and for me I have this all out, but in my kit it's got these oil passages for the bottoms. Okay, these you want to line up the little tang with the tang in the block, so we'll line that up there, press these in, just get it flush. Okay, let's make sure it's sitting in there properly, and we'll move on to the next one. The tang is on the left side from my point of view, but you'll see the tang mark in the block, so it might be different based on your point of view, but trust me, it's only going to go one way and look right and fit right. So put that in. That's the second one. Third one again. Okay, alright, put that in. Here's our fourth. Now you're probably wondering, if I wanted to switch one of these, it really wouldn't matter, because I haven't done my clearances just yet. Okay, it really doesn't matter. These are all the same part number. Okay, I'm gonna throw this one in here. Number 5. Okay, number 6 is your thrust bearing. Make sure it's the one with the oil passages, because you do have a thrust bearing that goes on top that does not have the oil passages, and it's different tangs. So make sure on the bottom you got that. Line the tang, drop it in there. Don't put any oil on these or anything. Okay, so when we're doing our clearances, we don't want to have any oil or assembly lube or anything like that. Okay, that thrust bearing is a little hard to see, but just make sure it's in there. Okay, that's 7, it's normal. Okay, and that goes back here. Okay, so I'll just give these a quick wipe here. Okay, give the top of these a quick wipe. I sent my crank over to the machine shop just to get it clean, resurfaced, yada yada yada. So I'm going to pull this out of the bag here. Make sure you're putting the front where it goes, on the front side. But really, you can't mess this up. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this off the back. So gently, very carefully, we are going to lay our crankshaft. Okay, lay that in there. I'll let that sit. Kind of heard it do its thing. So, like I said, I just pulled this out of the bag. This has been resurfaced, cleaned, everything. So, again, I left my crank bolt in on the front here. I'll move this a little bit. I have my crank bolt here, so I can kind of spin this maybe a little easier, but you want to go ahead and rotate this so that the holes are not showing. Now obviously in different areas it's going to have a hole at a different point in time. That's not going to matter right now, but we're going to start with this one here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, no oil holes. Okay, that means it's on the bottom. So I'll grab my number 4 main cap. And some of the writing is worn off on these bags. Did a good job collecting it, but writing came off. Okay, that's number 1. This is number, God forbid, who knows. This is number 2. Number 4. Okay, so I'm going to pull these out. Now you notice those things had little washers on them. Okay, when these are torqued down, this is how this is going to go. So when you're doing the clearance, I'll see what it reads with this and without this, because I'm not 1000% sure, but I would probably do this with the washer just to be safe, because that's the orientation of what it's going to be when you finalize it. So anyway, you're going to have a bearing up top here. Alright, number 4, it's going to say it right there. Okay, so this one we're going to work with, I need to slide in a new bearing. Okay, so I'll get that. See, sometimes it comes out a little easier than others, so be very careful. Okay, and you wipe some of this. You want to inspect this surface here. You want to check for it. Make sure you don't feel any scratches, anything like that. This feels good. So this engine had about 200,000 miles. A lot of this cleaned up really nice, actually. So we're gonna go ahead and, like I said, there's no oil passages like the other ones. So go ahead and grab your new bearing. You've got 2 tangs on this side and an internal tang. So in order, basically it's a flat side. So go ahead and stick the 2 tangs in. That fits just nice. Okay, so there we have it. Got our bearing in, the top bearing. Alright, so we'll set this down. Well, in a second. We are going to go ahead and use plastic gauge here to do the bearing clearance. Okay, I need to grab some scissors really quick. We're basically going to cut a piece off of this, grab the plastic gauge, put it right up on top, horizontally, insert the main cap like that, put the bolts in, tighten it down, 20 Newton meters and then 70 degrees. We'll loosen it up and we'll take the measurement on the plastic gauge. These are the measurements here. We'll take that, measure it, and make sure we're within spec here. So let me grab some scissors. You can get this at O'Reilly's or whatnot. So on one side we got inches, one side we got millimeters. Okay, cut a little piece. And we'll open it up. You'll see we've got our little piece right there. that little green thing. And we'll stick it on there. You don't want to be careful. Mine fell. Part of that does have to do with the orientation of this, though. That's funny. It actually stuck to my finger. Okay. Perfect. So try and get it aligned. As centered as you possibly can. Okay, that's about as good as that's going to get. So I'll start with taking this. You want to make sure the tangs line up with each other, so you've got a double tang on the top one, a single tang on the bottom one. Don't put this backwards, because if you put the tangs down here, it's not going to seat right. That's not the orientation. It's going to give you issues and you may mess up your bearings. So make sure that the double tang is lined up with the single tang. Okay, and this is for me right now, this is the exhaust side. So the tang is down there, 2 tangs, boom. Adjust this a little bit if you have to. Like I said, just making sure the crank is centered. Okay, we'll put our bolts in. These are the old bolts. Actually, I'll take the washer off. Start threading it in. These are the old bolts. Okay, these bolts are torqued to yield, so they're torqued to their yielding point. I'm not going to use the new ones. It just means that they're used once. That's that. So once it gets hot, they'll stretch a little more. That's just the way it is. The connecting rod bolts are the same as well, being torqued to yield and needing to be replaced upon assembly or reassembly. Okay, got those tightened. Now I'm going to torque it 20 Newton meters first and then 70 degrees. So I'm going to pull out my click torque wrench and my digital. Alright, so the way a plastic gauge is going to work is you're going to clamp it down. Okay, you're going to put a little strip. You're going to put your main bearings, your rod bearings. This one's a rod bearing. You'll take your little piece and you'll measure it up to kind of what you got on the plastic gauge here. I need to clean this off before I throw it in, but before I clean it, I just wanted to show what it looks like, how to read it. Okay, you want to do it dry. Don't do it with any assembly lube or anything. So yes, I had this together. Yes, I took it apart, so now it's actually time to throw it in, but this is kind of what you do to reference. You just cut a little piece. There's probably 4 pieces left on this strip. But yeah, that's kind of how that works there. So, you know, it's a build and rebuild kind of thing, but oh well, you want to make sure that you got the right clearances, because you don't want to just throw it all together and assume, because that just might not work out in your favor. It could. My connecting rod bearings were perfect. The main bearings, I had to do some stuff with them, some adjusting, but Anyway, just wanted to show that before I went and laid the crank in. Alright, so we'll line up the main bearings. Drop this in very carefully. You don't want to slam it in there. Okay, so that's in. Alright, so we've got a little bit of lube in there. And now, we'll take more lube and we're going to put it on top. For the top caps. And there are 7 main caps. So let's go ahead and coat that up. Because this thing is kind of sitting a little bit one-sided, I'm kind of having to move some of this lube over, so I might just spin this a little bit just to make sure I'm getting full contact. I don't think I want to use more lube, but definitely want to make sure all the contact is getting to where it needs to, so let me go ahead with that there. And spin this a little bit. God, that spins really nice. Anyway, alright, spun that a little bit, and now we can take our caps. So we've got 2 tangs here on the top cap. Alright, this one here is not really a tang, but you can see this is 2 tangs. And the 2 tangs are going to line up with the single tang on the bottom one. You wipe a little bit of excess lube here. Okay. And the center tang, actually, you can kind of see this one only has a center groove here on the bottom bearing. It's only got a center groove. So the two tang one has to go with the single tang over on that side. And set that in, take these bolts out. And the reason why I'm taking these bolts out, these are the old ones, they're torque to yield bolts. So these are getting replaced. I'm going to set those aside. I actually just realized I put this one in the wrong spot. They're going to have numbers on them, but this one goes back here. I had them all lined up and labeled and stuff, and good thing I realized is the next one on the list was the thrust bearing, so that made perfect sense to me right there that I had already done something wrong. So, double tang to no tang for the thrust bearing. Remove those. Double tang to none. And that one there says 5. So the thrust bearing doesn't say. And number 7 back here doesn't say. But the other ones are 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Why? Don't know. I mean, a thrust bearing one could be obvious as long as you pulled it out and kept track of what you were doing. Number 4. Now I will admit, replacing these bolts, I think some people might say to do it, some people will say it's too much money. So, which one is it? Is it too much money, or you don't have to do it? Well, if it says to do it, that's what I'm going to do. I don't recommend going and doing otherwise. If BMW engineer said to replace this bolt, the main bolts, then that's what you should do. Yes, it costs 120 bucks just for a bag of stupid bolts, but I would rather be safe than sorry. I'm sure though some people have gotten away with not doing it and we're just fine. So pick your poison, do what you want ultimately, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it. Found them online, they're easy enough to order. I believe I got them from Pelican Parts. So if they're accessible and they weren't a pain in the butt to find, I'll just do it. I'll take the L on 120 bucks. I already took big enough L doing this project anyway, so 120 bucks isn't really gonna hurt for the rest of it. Okay. Drop that. So in theory, if you were gonna reuse those bolts, clean them up. Use a wire wheel, clean them up, and yeah, do what you gotta do. Anyway, I have my new bolts, so first thing I'm gonna do is pull them out, match them up, but we already look screwed up. Different sizes.